All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are tackling a dilemma that pretty much every homeowner dreads having to face at some point: basement moisture. We're looking at some fantastic insights today from the pros at Eastern Waterproofing to help us figure out exactly what's going on beneath our floorboards and how to spot the actual warning signs before it's too late.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You get that incredibly relatable sinking feeling. You wander downstairs to grab some old holiday decorations out of storage, or maybe you're just doing a quick load of laundry and squish. Your foot hits a damp spot, or worse, a full-on puddle. Panic just instantly sets in. You're staring at the wall, you're staring at the floor, and you ask yourself the ultimate homeowner question. Is this a drop-everything structural emergency, or can this wait until I actually have the time and budget to deal with it?
Well, there is a powerful truth drawn directly from our source material that really sets the stakes for us here today. It says water problems in a foundation tend to get worse gradually, then suddenly. It almost never just gets better on its own. Ignoring a tiny, gradual seep is exactly how you end up dealing with a sudden, disastrous flood during the very next rainstorm.
Okay, let's jump into section 1. The symptoms, more than just puddles.
The thing to remember is that water issues aren't always a dramatic, obvious flood. The symptoms can actually vary wildly. You might see a classic floor-level seepage after a heavy storm, sure. But it could also look like efflorescence, those weird, white, chalky marks blooming on your concrete block walls as groundwater evaporates. Or maybe just notice a persistent, musty smell that won't go away, some visible new cracks, or window wells that suddenly look like little aquariums. Misidentifying which of these is the root of the problem is exactly why so many DIY fixes end up totally failing.
Moving right along to section 2. Diagnosing floors and walls, the root causes.
Listen, if you're dealing with floor-level seepage, you really need to understand this one core concept: hydrostatic pressure. Basically, when it rains heavily or the snow melts, the water table in the soil right around your house rises. This creates immense pressure, literally pushing groundwater straight up from beneath your basement slab. The water is just looking for the path of least resistance, which is usually the joint where your floor meets your wall or right up through cracks in the slab itself. So here's the absolutely crucial takeaway. Because the water is being forced upward by the earth itself, slapping a surface patch on the floor or building a tiny little curb is completely useless. You aren't stopping the pressure at all. You're basically just putting a Band-Aid on a geyser.
Now, it turns out not all cracks are created equal. Vertical cracks, the ones running straight up and down, they're actually pretty common and usually just caused by normal concrete shrinkage over time. But horizontal cracks, those are a totally different story. They indicate lateral pressure. That means saturated soil outside your house is physically pushing against your foundation wall and bowing it inward. That is a much more serious issue.
Oh, and then you have diagonal cracks, kind of stepping up the wall. This specific pattern usually points to what's called differential settling, meaning one part of your foundation is sinking into the ground faster than the rest, literally tearing the concrete apart. Any shifting or widening crack like that needs professional eyes on it right away.
Which brings us to section 3, overlooked water entry points, the hidden dangers.
You know, water is notoriously lazy. It will always take the easiest route inside your home. And a lot of the time, that route isn't a crack in the wall at all, but an opening that's already there. Hatchways, for example, they can easily fail at the seal against the foundation, or the base drainage gets clogged, or maybe the doors on top are just worn out. Then you have window wells. They can quickly flood when the stone drainage at the bottom gets clogged up with mud and leaves, letting water build up and leak right through the window frame. And here's one people literally always miss: the chimney cleanout. The masonry block surrounding lower-level chimneys is super porous. Groundwater just migrates right through the brick and suddenly pools at the base of your chimney. Patching a tiny crack on your wall while completely ignoring a clogged window well 10 feet away is definitely not going to solve your moisture problem.
All right, section 4, triage, wait or act now, the urgency framework.
This is a brilliant way to prioritize your game plan. On one side, we have the call right away list: active water pooling on the floor, horizontal or shifting cracks, water getting anywhere near your electrical panels, or the distinct smell of active mold. Those mean you need to call a pro immediately. But on the flip side, things like efflorescence, a dry vertical crack, or just a generally musty smell without any visible water, those are issues you can just monitor and schedule an appointment for in a few weeks. So no need to panic tonight, but you do need to make that call eventually.
But hey, listen to me on this one. Regardless of which column your specific problem falls into, I need to give you a huge warning right here. Do not use hydraulic cement surface patches. I know it is so incredibly tempting to just run to the local hardware store, grab a bucket of patch, and smear it all over a seeping crack. But hydraulic cement only slows a leak temporarily. It doesn't actually penetrate the crack, and it does absolutely nothing to alleviate the hydrostatic pressure building up behind the wall. It just masks the problem. It literally traps the moisture inside the concrete where it quietly eats away at your structural integrity and just delays the proper repair. Seriously, skip the surface patch.
Let's get into Section 5, the right professional fix, choosing your doctor.
So what does a real permanent fix actually look like? Well, it treats the root cause. And that always starts with an on-site evaluation. Absolutely no guessing over the phone. If you've got hydrostatic pressure, the permanent cure is a below-floor interior drainage system. For wall cracks, the gold standard is crack injection. But here's a fun fact. The material they use really matters. Epoxy resin is used for structural bonding, while polyurethane foam is what they use to seal active, non-structural leaks. It takes a real expert to know exactly which chemical application your specific crack needs to survive.
And you know, when you're inviting someone into your home for serious structural work, trust is literally everything. For instance, Eastern Waterproofing has been operating as a third-generation family business since 1976, and that kind of longevity matters. Why? Because you see a lot of fly-by-night companies pop up, offer a so-called lifetime guarantee, and then completely dissolve 3 years later. A written guarantee is only as good as the company sticking around to honor it.
Plus, Eastern Waterproofing highlights a major red flag you should be watching out for in this industry: commissioned salespeople. When you call Eastern, the owner himself, John Piolette, personally evaluates the jobs using over 30 years of hands-on experience. No salespeople, no commissions. This is so vital because you want an actual expert assessing the physics of your foundation, not a salesperson trying to push a standardized, highly profitable package that your home might not even need. So, if you're standing in a damp basement right now and you've decided it's finally time to call in a pro, ask yourself this: who is actually doing your estimate and what are they incentivized to recommend? Are they motivated to permanently fix your unique hydrostatic pressure issue, or are they just trying to hit a monthly sales quota? Understanding the signs, the physics, and the motives of the people you hire is absolutely the ultimate way to protect your home's foundation. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep a close eye on those window wells, and I'll catch you next time.